Namaste. A woman by her true nature is a guru. Often we learn from our mothers, Mother Earth, Mother Nature. The instincts of femininity makes her a natural teacher to her children as well as others around her. Guru is one who takes away the ignorance and shines light on the path you need to take as a seeker. In ancient India, women were not restricted to knowledge or Brahma Vidya. In fact, there are innumerable women who were extremely well versed with all spiritual texts. An educated woman, especially with the spiritual knowledge of the higher self, when combined with her innate nature of compassion, makes her the ultimate guru. Woman as a guru not just imparts knowledge, but also shows the right path with kindness, forgiveness, corrects you when you make a mistake, and with utmost compassion supports you throughout your journey. Today, as a tribute, we will see the stories of three powerful women gurus in our Indian history. In the last video, we saw how mothers can be the first teacher and set their child in the right path. Thus, we saw the role of woman as a teacher to her child. But today's story is an especially interesting one. In this story, we will see Queen Chudala take the form of a guru. And who does she become a guru to? None other than her own husband. One day, King Shikidwaja was suddenly overwhelmed by dispassion. He said, "This kingdom is not mine. I cannot be attached to this worldly material life." He suddenly renounced the kingdom and took up sannyas and went into the forest. So instead, on his behalf, his wife, Queen Chudala, had to take charge and rule the kingdom. Now, Queen Chudala was a yogini and had much higher knowledge of the higher self. At the time of his leaving, she had tried to persuade him to stay, but he wouldn't listen to her. She tried to tell him that he can stay in the kingdom and still attain moksha. However, she realized that he was only wasting his time in the name of tapas. So she went to meet him in the forest. Upon seeing her, the king gets startled and asks her what she was doing there. A simple glance at him made her realize what he was doing, and she told him that he wasn't doing any tapas but only sleeping and wasting his time in the forest. She tells him that he has not renounced a single thing yet. When the furious king asks how that is possible when he left behind her, his entire kingdom, and he threw away all his belongings in front of her and mocked her by saying that he will throw away his body by committing suicide from a tree, for that is his only possession right now. Queen Chudala goes on to provide him with the knowledge of the true form of renunciation. She says, real renunciation is the renunciation of one's ego, one's own identity, and one's cravings or desires. It is renouncing the intellect that identifies itself with the body, which mistakes the body to be the soul. All you need to renounce is only this, and this would be true renunciation. Her words hit him hard like a single focused arrow. He came down to her, bent over, and asked her to instruct him in the true path of spiritual life. At this place in the Yoga Vashishta, Queen Chudala starts her lessons over what is vairagya or what is detachment. She says worldly life and spiritual life are like water and oil. They do not contaminate each other but are always misunderstood to do. They are exclusive of each other, as money and desire can never actually touch one's true higher self. Instead, it is the identification with the karma that makes one suffer. Karma is not the suffering, but your identification as the ego causes the suffering by the karma. And eventually, after making the true form of sacrifice or detachment as not simply throwing away the material life, but one's own identity, she brings the king back to the kingdom to follow his dharma and rule while continuing to be his spiritual guru for the rest of his life. Similarly, Princess Hemalaka. Princess Hemalaka was to a guru not just to her husband, the king, but also to her father-in-law, the ministers, and the entire kingdom. It is said that after she became the queen by marrying into the kingdom, she spoke of such high knowledge of the self, the purpose of life, and the higher truths that the notions of Brahman was spoke about in daily conversations of the common people of her kingdom. It is said that the entire kingdom was so drenched in her knowledge of the higher self that even the birds from her kingdom sang songs about Brahma Vidya after listening to her songs. Seeing her so detached from material pleasures and desires, when the prince asked her why, she explains that the objects of pleasure cannot be enjoyed forever. Pleasure is only contaminated by suffering. She thus kept educating the prince about the need for detachment from worldly knowledge and only the pursuance of the higher self that the prince himself became dispassionate. Astonished by the change in the prince, the father-in-law, the king, too seeked for her knowledge. Later, she became the ultimate teacher, imparting knowledge to the entire kingdom, including the ministers, the executives. It is said that even the gods of this kingdom obtained spiritual knowledge from her. She is the ultimate example of a guru, not only to her children and husband, but to everyone that surrounded her. In the contemporary era too, we had many women gurus who practiced tapas and guided many into the same path. One such example is the appearance of Bhairavi Brahmani into the life of Paramahamsa Ramakrishna during his sadhana. When Ramakrishna Paramahamsa had the vision of goddess Kali, he was extremely happy and longed for it once again. After getting married, a year later, he came back to Dakshineshwar and started his practices to obtain the vision he had seen of the divine goddess. He was so focused that to the extent that for many days he did not eat or sleep and only sat in deep meditation. They say that when a disciple is ready, the guru arrives, and so did Ramakrishna's guru, Bhairavi Brahmani. A middle-aged woman in her ochre clothes arrived in front of Ramakrishna and said, "My son, how long have I been searching for you? I have been sent here by the goddess herself to guide you in your spiritual practices." To Ramakrishna, she felt like an old friend and more importantly, like his own mother. He immediately surrendered to her and accepted her as his guru. Thereafter, the Brahmani began teaching him the tantric teachings. She found that Ramakrishna had rare spiritual potential and proclaimed him to be an avatar and challenged anyone to argue against it. The scholars who already knew of her might felt no need to challenge her. She initiated him into the 64 tantric practices called the tantric sadhanas. It involved worshipping Shakti and to transcend the barriers between the holy and the unholy to reach the state of seeing this entire world only as the manifestation of the divine Shakti. It started with japa and rituals as taught by her and went on to more intense sadhanas. Despite his reservations, Ramakrishna practiced the tantric path but often restricted his disciples from taking up the path and consistently cautioned his disciples against it. It is said that it was under a bhel tree in Dakshineshwar garden that he performed all of these under her guidance. Ramakrishna was like her child and she swiftly guided him to the divine path of reaching the goddess. Thus, today we pay tribute to all the women gurus who have lived on this Punya Bhumi and contributed so much into the spiritual as well as other fields of knowledge. Namaste, Jai Hind.
Ma Kushmanda is worshipped on the 4th day of Navratri. According to Hindu scriptures, Ma Kushmanda is believed to be the creator of the universe. The goddess holds the power of the Siddhis, is fond of red flowers, and carries a japamala in her hand. It is believed that she brought light to the world with her divine smile and energy. She blesses devotees with energy, health, and strength.